continue to dominate this part of the world, with Conservatives for company. Two parties with very different views on the future of industries here, and of course whether Scotland should be an independent country. So while there was no political earthquake like Alex Salmond promised in this region, if you do feel any tremors over the next 5 years, you may know why.
Phil McDonald, LBC's reporter in Aberdeen, bringing us up to date with the situation there in Scotland, and almost inevitable Salmond isn't going to get a seat. Back to your calls. Tom in Liverpool. Tom.
Hey David.
Hi.
I'd like to make a comment about what you were talking to in the caller just before the news. I was slightly angry when I woke up. You gave a great insight there about how you barely feel. Now, I come from a Labour family, a solid Labour family. All my father and my grandfather voted Labour. I've got 3 sons. One of my sons is a consultant in acute medicine. I've got a son who works in mental health. His wife is a deputy head. They care about what's going on with the poor. They care about what's going on in society. So for the caller, when you were having a conversation, you just casually said, we should just cut these people adrift. Is that the Labour Party that you want to belong to? Because you said straight away, but there's lots of people in the PLP who have the same views. And then you've got John McDermott.
Tom, let me just say something. Okay, go on.
Brilliant John McDermott, who advised Julia Gillard and was wiped out in Australia. He then goes to Scotland after Tony Blair's wonderful performance of the Scottish. He then wipes out the Labour votes in Scotland. We didn't have an MP. We had 45 before we started. So that's the reason why you're not going to win an election.
Tom, look, I have been told that you were going to say this, and that's why I've got you on, because it is important to balance views. But I think what John McTurner said, there are some colleagues who believe that. I've always generally, let me just be clear, I've always been of the view, generally speaking, I think most people would say with David Lammy, that I've had friends on the left of the party, friends more towards the sort of Blairite wing of the party. Generally speaking, I don't think people would describe me as the most factional MP, just in terms of where I'm generally coming at. But, these are decisions that lie ahead. And your point of view, that looking really saying that you can cut people out of the party, Tom, it's a legitimate position. Of course it's a legitimate position. And in the end, what I'm really clear about is the Labour Party is going to win nada if it remains divided and constantly bickering amongst itself, is the truth.
So try and unite the left to the centre, David, instead of trying
thinking about politics every day. But unless Labour persuades those people to vote for them, we are not going to be forming a government. All we're going to do, Tom, is pile on votes in places like London and Liverpool, but we will not be making the gains across the rest of the country that you see. That's the truth of it.
Do you know what? It's interesting what you were saying about the policies. You know, like another thing John McTiernan said: get rid of the Corbyn policies. Boris is stealing some of them. And Boris is actually using
There's
them.
definitely is an pandemic for sure.
He's using Corbyn's policies now. So he's moving
because the Liberal Democrats, I'm afraid, following Joe Swinston's debate,